There we go. Welcome, everybody. I'm Michelle from Consolidated Planning Group. Thank you so much for joining us today. And a special shout out to Northeast ISD for helping spread the word about today's webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about summer IEP tips and avoiding that dreaded summer slide. So we've got the fantastic Shemica Allen here to talk to us today. Before I let her take over, I would like to talk to you a little bit about some housekeeping items and then about who Consolidated Planning Group is. So first of all, I want to let you know that we always record our webinars and put them on our YouTube channel. So we will send you a link later on today at whatever email you registered for this webinar with. We're going to send you an email that would have a link to the YouTube channel where you're going to be able to see this webinar. We're also going to send you the slides. So you'll have a chance to review the slides if you want. You can review the recording if you would like. The other thing I want to let you know is that because we're in webinar mode, I cannot see you or hear you, but we definitely want to get your questions and comments. So please, anything that you would like to share, put in the chat box. I love getting your questions, and that is the easiest way for me to be able to run the presentation for Ms. Allen and get the questions and make sure that your questions are answered, okay? So grab a drink, grab a snack. We cannot see you or hear you. We should be here for about an hour today talking about these great tips for making the summer more productive. So first of all, Consolidated Planning Group. You know, who are we? Why do we do all these webinars? What's the deal? Why should you even listen to us? Well, we have been around for over 30 years in the financial services industry, doing life insurance and investments, helping to help our clients plan for retirement and all of that stuff. We've been doing that for over 30 years. We've won industry awards. We've been great at it. But now, in the past maybe 10 years, we've decided that we really want to focus on serving the special needs community. And there are so few financial planning firms who truly understand the nuances of planning for an individual in your life who might have a disability, whether it be an intellectual or developmental. So we decided we are going to focus on serving the community. So we are members of the Special Needs Planning Academy. We are also National Social Security Advisors, and I'm a chartered special needs consultant through the American College of Financial Services. Almost every single client that we have has an individual in their life with some kind of different need. So families come to us really to help them with that side of their financial planning life. And we help them with all the other sides, all of the other facets of the life, of your special needs planning and financial planning future. So we can do protection plans, lifetime care planning for your family, transition planning, that's a big one, and that's a lot of what we talk about. We can help with ABLE accounts and understanding how your buckets of money need to be set up to make sure your loved one does not miss out on any great benefits. And truly, we are here to advocate for you and to educate you, because out of the entire United States, there are over 263,000 financial advisors. But out of those 263,000 financial advisors, fewer than 200 focus on special needs planning. So we can do anything that any traditional financial advisor would do for you, but we do it through the lens of understanding that your loved one might need your help, not just for the rest of your life, but for the rest of their life. And what does that look like? How can we help you make sure that they're going to be covered? So a few things real quick before I let Shemica take over. I know it keeps you up at night thinking about who is going to take care of your loved one when you can't do it anymore. We want you to be thinking ahead. Planning early gives you a longer runway to make small incremental adjustments, um, and make a big difference over time. If you have a shorter time period, that's okay. We can still help you, but things might feel a little bit more rushed and hectic. So we want you to think about planning as soon as you can. Think about what's going to happen after high school. There are some great residential options. There are educational options beyond high school for our loved ones, and there are vocational options as well. So today we're really going to be focusing on educational uh, educational topics and about the IEP in the summer. And this is just the perfect time to introduce this topic. So I thank you so much, Shemica, for bringing it to us at this point. The last thing I just want to mention is just be careful if you think that a loved one is going to be willing and able to step in and take care of their sibling when your children are older. That's not always the best option for families, and we can help you think of other possibilities and make sure that both sides of that equation are going to be okay with it. So, Shemica, thank you so much for being patient. I will turn it over to you. Everybody here is here for you, not for me. So,
All right. Thank
hey,
you,
get
Michelle.
away.
Thank you, Michelle. So as Michelle said, my name is Shemica Allen. I'm going to talk to you today about summer IEP tips and things you can do over the summer to help your child ease into next school year. And you're probably thinking, why are we talking about this right now? I mean, we've got to plan ahead. As you saw, Michelle has talked about planning ahead. And remember, IDEA says that the purpose of IDA is to prepare students for life after high school. So even though it is still the summer, we can still work on skills and needs to help work on the plan for that life after high school. So the presentation is in 4 parts. It's going to be, what is summer slide? You hear that? What does that mean? Summer strategies, things you can do in the summer, how you collect data on the activities you do, so you can present that at your IEP meetings. And then most importantly, to help, I say this in every workshop I do for anybody, the ones I do for myself, that I host myself, organizing your child's educational records and how important it is to have a good organization as you go into the school year. And the summertime is a good time to get organized. So you're ready for the next school year. You're not trying to organize right before an IEP meeting. So
Good.
next slide. So what is summer slide? So they say technically summer slide is when a student regresses because there's a lack of academic and structured learning environment. So as we all know, our students get used to a schedule. Your children get used to a schedule. So in the summertime, it can be a little relaxed, but we don't want it to be too relaxed that they lose the skills that they have gained during the school year. And summer slide can be because of an absence of regular classroom instruction where they are practicing and reinforcing the skills. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I don't expect you to be a teacher and to teach new instruction and to teach new skills, but you can practice with your child on the skills they have and reinforce the skills they have. That's all we're expecting you to do. We're not expecting you to go into your state standards and teach the next level of math content or anything like that. Just reinforce what they already have. And one way of doing that is you got to know where they're at. And that's part of that organization of your educational records. You've got to get that information from the school right now in your progress reports and any information you can get from their classroom teachers. So summer slide, I say, is prevalent in education, and research shows that no matter your social economic background, no matter where you live, what part of the country, your ethnicity, the age of the child, summer slide can affect any child. And studies show that it not only affects their academic loss, it can affect any functional skills they've learned, any adaptive skills, social skills, and it's much harder for students to catch back up. That's where you hear those terms, regression and recoupment. You hear the school districts talk about ESY. So if a student has had summer slide, it's going to be harder for them to catch back up when the school year does start. Next slide. So Summer Slide is concerned for parents because it's overall academic success. Remember, an IEP is just not about academics. It's about helps with deficits in social, emotional, functional, adaptive, behavioral skills. So you don't want any of those skills to slide. If your child has made great progress this summer, you want to keep that progress going. So I'm going to talk to you about some activities you can do that are going to be academic based and social based to work on all of those skills. And remember, the lack of access to academic resources and structured opportunities over the summer, it leads to that widening of that achievement gap. So we want to decrease that achievement gap and want to keep students where they are. Like I said, I'm not asking you to teach new skills or your next state standards, the next math content. I'm just asking you to do things to practice where your child is right now. So sometimes too, when a kid has summer slide and they go into the school year, if they see that they're not where their peers are, it's motivation. We all know it's hard to get students back into the school routine as it is going from summer back into the fall. And when they see, oh, I'm not performing where my peers are, that may decreases their self-esteem, decreases their motivation. So we all want our kids to stay highly motivated throughout their school years. So when they see they're falling behind their peers, like I said, it affects their self-esteem. We all know when students with disabilities get into middle school, and they become very aware of their differences. And I have clients right now whose students say, I don't want to be in special education. I don't want to have anything to do with special education. Even though it helps them, if the summer slide happens and they can be very aware that they have a disability and they become very aware that they're different from their peers, they can see the difference in their learning compared to their peers' learning, which can affect their motivation. And you're already dealing with them not wanting to be different at all. So now here's another difference. So we just want to talk to you about some things today to help you maintain their skills, which will keep up their academic, social, behavioral, functional skills, and also to keep up their motivation and their self-esteem. Next slide. So some strategies for summer slide. Go back. Thank you. We all know ESY. You should be having those conversations right now with your school district, with your IEP team. Does your child qualify for ESY services? The one thing, I'm going to say two things really about ESY. You hear districts talk a lot about regression and recoupment. That's the only way they say a student may qualify for ESY. Over the breaks, their skills have regressed, but as they come back to school in that structured learning environment, they're able to recoup their skills. That is not the only way. The next big way that I advocate for my parents who want ESY for their students is their child on the they're at a breakthrough skill or a critical point in their learning of a skill. And if that structured learning environment is taken away, they lose that progress. And then you also have progress on IEP goals. But the one I really utilize now is they're at a breakthrough on a skill. They've worked on a skill all year, and they're at a certain point, at a critical point of that skill. If they have no structured learning environment, they will lose that progress. So ESY is a lot more than just regression and recoupment. I look at about 5 different criteria, but the next one I really look at and focus on what progress has a student made and what are they their critical point in some of their skills, and they need to continue receiving those instructional services. Next,
so
go
for
ahead.
summer school, if a child is in the 18 plus program, or if they're 18, or is summer school still available for them? And it sounds like this would be a great strategy to talk to the school about, hey, we don't want this to happen.
Well, so summer school is general ed side. So let's and ESY is extended school year. So if your child's going to 18 plus program, they still have an IEP and they can still qualify for extended school year services if there's goals in their IEP that you need to meet, or if that student, if they're going into an 18 plus program, they have met all of their graduation requirements. So in an 18 plus program, you are working on vocational work-based learning. You should be working on functional skills. So look at their IEP and see, are there goals in those areas that they are working on or they're at a critical point on? Are they working on work-based learning, community-based learning skills, vocational skills? Their reading and their writing skills and math skills should be functional skills that are going to help them in the community because they've met all their graduation requirements. So you want to see, are there goals and critical skills that they're working on, because they should be in their IEP right now, they should have a mix of both goals, being that they are working to move toward life after high school. So you want to look and see, are there functional goals, work-based goals, things like that that can be worked on in ESY. So as long as a student has an IEP, can we go back one more slide? As long as they have an IEP, you can talk about extended school year.
Okay.
Next, you're welcome. Next, plan a daily schedule. You have to maintain some type of routine. Now, y'all can see my pretty blue background. I love the ocean. I love going to the beach. So we all want to have fun this summer, but every kid, we can't wake up at 12 o'clock every day. Okay, so we've got to have some kind of a routine. It may not be 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning like we're doing to get ready for school, but have a time the child gets up every day, brushes their teeth, gets dressed, have some kind of structure, make sure they get some kind of breakfast, no matter what their day is going to be. There's going to be some kind of learning going on in the day, or if it's just a fun day, still have some type of routine, because this will help you as you go back into the fall. The routine may get a little earlier in the morning, but they understand we're still in a structured routine. So all I'm saying is it's just not a free-for-all when the summertime starts. You've got to keep some type of structure, especially in the morning, of getting the day going. And I would say probably at the end of the day, yes, kids can stay up late, but don't let them stay up to 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. They may can stay up an hour or two past their bedtime, but do have some kind of structure to the day. Next slide. So when I talk about working on skills, you should not feel you're responsible for teaching new skills. You're there to work and maintain the skills your child has. So this can be academic skills, social, behavioral. So one way to work on social and to generalize skills is out in the community and out in social activities. So you may want to see about planning social activities with familiar faces from your child's school. So at this time, you may want to be gathering phone numbers, contact information for parents, so you can set up play dates. And if your child does have social goals in their IEP, this is the way to keep trying to practice those skills. I would make sure with the social goals, you're talking to the teacher or the speech therapist, and you're working on the goals the same way they're working on them in the school environment. So you don't want to try to introduce a new way to work on the skill with the child. You want the child to generalize, but talk to the providers at school. If you have social goals, how are they working on it? Are they use the same type of visuals, the same type of sentence starters, or things like that? But be gathering names of people from your child's school so you can have social activities. Again, it's all about the fun too. Plan vacation times. Your child does need a break, but your child can utilize these activities they do in the summer we all do. What did you do over the summer? Writing activities, or if they're in earlier grades and they have to draw what they did over the summer. We still want it to be fun in the summertime, but they can utilize some of the things they do in the evenings and weekends to be material as they go back to school. So we're just not working on academics. We're still working on the social. So again, if your child is working on work-related or vocational skills, and you're going out in the community and they're working on eye contact, shaking people's hands, all of those type of skills can be worked on in the summertime when you're out in the community in the natural environment. Next slide. So again, here I got a little ahead of myself. Community-based options. So investigate in your community. What kind of summer camps, sports camps? Go to your local recreation center. Remember, your child has access to everything. ADA, 504. So your child has access to any summer camp, sports camp, camp at your recreational center. You just may want to have a meeting with the director of the recreational center or the director of the camps if it's not a camp specifically for students with disabilities. There are a lot of camps in states just for students with disabilities, but if your child's just going to go to a camp that is not specifically for students with disabilities, the only thing I would say to do is have a meeting with the leaders of the camp, the leaders of the recreation center, to make sure that they can meet the needs of your child. But have your child get out in the community, go to city parks, go to the library. You can plan scavenger hunts with sight words. Things, there's all kinds of fun activities you can do. Like I said, go to the local library, sit down and read with your child every day. Read with them, to them. You can even have them listen to audio books. There is a great website I use in some of my workshops when we play. I play virtual bingo, but you can make the website I use also makes bingo cards. You can make bingo cards of sight words. There's one of the options on the website is to do printable bingo cards, and you put in the list of the words you want, and the program makes all the bingo cards. So I use it a lot when I'm teaching about the federal law, and we're doing federal law and state law bingo. But you can make bingo cards of sight words. You can make bingo cards of multiplication facts. All of this is fun learning activities just to work on your child's skills. But I do suggest, reading is very important. It impacts students in all areas of disability. It impacts them in all classes. If you know math now, once you get into third grade, everything's about a word problem. So your child has to be able to read. When they get in science and social studies, to access that content is usually through reading. I know we have oral administration. I know we have, text to speech and speech to text and all of that. But reading impacts students in every subject area in their learning. So try to read every day, have them read every day, read to them, expose them to some type of reading activity. Next
One
slide.
activity that I really love doing with students is I take their sight words and write them, for younger ones. I put their sight words on little index cards,
Mhm.
and then either inside or outside, let them take that stack of cards and just throw them up in the air and scatter them all over the floor. And then I play either, if I see a word, I'll say, go find the word what. And it's an
Yeah.
active, but it's
Yes.
also with their sight words. And then you can implement that with the bingo when they bring the card back to you and show you or read you what it says.
Yes.
You can implement that with the bingo. You can make them make stories with those cards, whatever. It's a really fun game that the kids just adore.
We do have a question I see from Christina asking, does the bingo come in Spanish? I will have to check out on the website. It's a website, and I can send it to Michelle, and they can give that, Meredith can send that out to everybody. It's a great website. It does virtual bingo, so you can, if kids want to get together and play, that's a social activity. There's virtual bingo, there's printable bingo cards, but you just put in what you want on the cards, and it makes the game. So fun-filled game. Like I say, get outside. Everyone loves it, and I know we're saying a lot of activities maybe for younger kids, but get some chalk and write sight words on the sidewalk. Anything like that. Get them outside a little bit more. There's all kinds of things you can do outside. If you go into the beach or you go into activity, do words in the beach, in the sand. Do addition, subtraction, multiplication in the sand. So again, then you have the normal things, working with the tutor. If you feel your child needs a tutor, You can look for some low cost tutoring, either college students, many high school students who have to do community service for things like National Junior Honor Society. They do volunteer hours. You can maybe find some low cost tutors through colleges or high school programs. If you want to go that route and go the tutor route, that's the way to go. Next slide. So, like Michelle said, throwing the cards up, hands-on learning. I mentioned, even the shaving cream, doing things in shaving cream, doing things in the sand, just any hands-on activity. Um, I love this one. Instead of playing horse with words with basketball, play with sight words or play with spelling words, and play a game of basketball that way. Write math facts on the index card and put the answers around the house, whether your child's working on, no matter what kind of math they're working on, single addition, double digit multiplication, put the problems on an index card and then put the answers around the house. Again, play with shaving cream and baking sheets to spell words. Um, Incorporate learning into daily activities. If your child is cooking, fractions, fractions is cooking every day, 1/2, 1/4, what is a cup? You can plan learning into just your daily activities. You can make sentences with objects in the community or the environment. There's just so many different things you can do. There's also going on Google, and you can search for math worksheets. I also have a great math website. It's actually on my website. I'll send it to an email to Meredith that she can send out on math facts. So if you want to do the basic worksheet, but you can still take those worksheets and you can cut the problems up and scatter them around the house and scavenger hunt or anything with those type of problems. But I will make sure to send some links to some activities and some websites with good information. Next slide. Technology. Well, we all know tapping into technology. Every kid nowadays can probably run technology better than us. My 2-year-old niece and 7-year-old niece knew how to use iPhones before when they first were born. So, I mean, they knew how to cut you off on FaceTime very quickly. So, there's podcasts, there's ebooks, there's all kinds of apps, online brain teasers. But I understand, a lot of parents want to get their children away from the technology because a lot of schools have gone to everything's on computers nowadays. So this is just another thing you can do in the summer. You can limit the technology, but technology there's a lot on the internet, appropriate things for them to do. Look into, doing some science fair projects. There are science, technology, engineering, and math projects. You can do some simple science projects in your home that don't take a lot of materials. Games. Find some educational board games. There are educational and non-educational brain teaser puzzles. There's all kinds of ways to Monopoly. If your child is learning their money, and adding money, Monopoly is a good way. You could stress. It may take a little longer to play Monopoly if you're working on stressing those math skills, but you can incorporate it by there's educational and non-educational board games. So I want to stop here and see, do we have any questions? I know I've given a lot of just different activities. I'm going to send some websites that will help with activities.
There is one question that I saw that we haven't addressed, and this
Okay.
isn't really on topic for what you're talking about today, but
Okay.
if you could put on your educational advocate hat and think about, what do we do when the parent and the district speech therapist disagree on, or when the parent disagrees with any evaluation in
Okay.
terms of the IEP?
Okay, so that is a typical advocate question. When you disagree, um, typically that will result in another meeting because schools do not like IEPs to end in disagreement. So that typically You said IEP or you said the evaluation? I'm sorry, Michelle.
Well, just when they're having the evaluations and the parents don't agree with either the evaluation or, well, here it says the district speech therapist evaluation.
Okay, if you do not agree with an evaluation, you have a right to request what we call an IEE, an independent educational evaluation. You will need to put that in writing to the school district, and the school district has two options. They can give you consent for the IEE, and they send you all of the district's policies and procedures for the independent educational evaluation, or they have to file due process to defend their evaluation. If they don't do one of those two options, that is a procedural violation and you can file a state complaint. So those are your options when you don't agree. They may ask you why you don't agree. I tell them in the IEE letter what we're disagreeing with, because those are the areas they can grant the IEE in. But they only have two options. When you request an IEE, that is your option. You don't let the school district go back and fix their evaluation. They had a chance to fix it. That's it. They had a chance to do a comprehensive evaluation. They don't get to fix it again. So you request that IEE. They have to grant the IEE or file due process, and those are their only two options. And it says in a timely manner. I would say anywhere from 2 weeks to 30 days is timely. It should not take a district 90 days to 6 months to decide on an IEE. Most times when I'm dealing with clients and we request an IEE, we usually have an answer within 2, maybe 3 weeks at the most. So those are your two options, and that's outlined in the federal law and in your state laws. Because I don't know if everybody is from Texas on the webinar, but that is outlined in the federal IDEA.
Perfect. Thank you. Now, we've been talking about some great activities for littles. What about teenagers? What are some ideas for teenagers? They don't need sight word practice as much probably, but what can you think of that we can do with our
So
teenagers?
for teenagers, same thing, reading. Is it's try to work on, reading as much as you can, because as you get higher up in those high school years, you're working on graduation requirements. So we don't want to have to take any classes over. And reading impacts your access to the math content, to the science content, to the social studies content. So practice reading as much as possible. Look where your child is a deficit in their math, especially for high school. You want to work on the basic math calculation skills, because you need those basic calculation skills to do algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2. Work on those, if your child's deficit in basic math calculation, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. All of that builds on, if your child has difficulties doing addition and subtraction, they're going to have difficulty solving 1 and 2 step equations. So for high school, I would look at where they are really older kids deficit on and work on those deficits. I know it may not be as fun as the elementary activities, but when you're working on graduation requirements, you've got to hone in and work on the skills that they're deficit in. So one, I would say reading, definitely reading, because reading is access to all this, no matter what class they take, an elective class, a career and technology class, they're going to have to read that content, or that's the way to absorb that content. And then, like I said, math, those basic math, addition, subtraction, everything builds on top of that. So working on skills like that. If you have a child who's going into the 18 plus, they're working on work-related skills, job-related skills. I would have them complete tasks around your house like they're on a job. Give them tasks to do, and you may have to break it down a little bit, but give them tasks to do around your house like it's their job, and give them, if you want to set it up where they're earning money or something like that, but work on their retention to a task, work on their completion of a task, quality of the task, their time on task. All of those are good activities, walking the dog, doing laundry, unloading the dishwasher. So give them jobs to do. When I was a middle school self-contained teacher, sometimes we had so many jobs I couldn't even teach. My kids collected recycling at school. We were shoppers at Walmart for teachers when we went. This is before technology, when teachers still use the transparencies to do math, and we clean transparencies for the math teachers. So give them jobs to do. If you have a student who is working on those type of skills, make things around your house a job.
Yes,
All right.
perfect. We
Any
do
other
have some more
questions?
questions, but I would
Okay.
love for you to get through more of your uh,
Presentation.
presentation and then come back to some of these, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
So, one thing you need to start though with all of this, start by reviewing your child's IEP. I think there's one more on the slide.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Review your child's IEP and IEP progress. You've got to know where they're at. That's why it's important. A lot of times parents forget to get that last IEP progress report of the school year, which should be coming about the last week of school. You want to make sure you get that last IEP progress so you know where your child is and what skills you want to work on in the summer. Working on IEP goals and retention activities. Take a break. School year's ended. Take about a week break, maybe 2 week break. Look at where your child is ended the school year and determine what skills you want to work on for retention. So I know it's overwhelming. The school year is ending. You have all kinds of end of the school activities and things like that. But take a breather so you can have a fresh, open eyes, and then look at their progress report. Look at their report card. If you got to break out the state standards and see, this is what they were supposed to learn in first grade math. This is where they say they are. But just take some time and make sure you're reviewing that information, because you want the summer to still be fun for your child, but you want to work on their needed skills, and you don't want to waste time working on something that they may not need to work on. So that's why I say take about a week or two break after school ends, and then go back and look at these things. And then you want to make sure, very importantly, anything you do, you are taking data on. Okay. And I'm going to talk to you about some data collection techniques here on the next two slides. But anything you do, if it's even as simple as just writing down what you did for the day, take data. That's all very important data that will help you with your child's next IEP meetings, that you can put into your vision statement.
Yeah, that data is everything.
All right, so I've come up with, as I call it, 8 easy ways for parents to take data. So you have observations and anecdotal records. So an observation it has a start time. So you say you're going to observe your child today doing their work skills, or notating how they're doing with their reading from this time to this time. Anecdotal records are just a written description, word by word, a transcript of the events of the day. So they're different. Observation has a structured stop time. And then anecdotal records is, you may just sit down every night and say, hey, keep a diary on 5/1. This is what we did today, and how your child maybe reacted to things, what strengths you saw, what needs you saw. You could just keep like a little anecdotal diary. Portfolio. If you're doing like worksheets, or you're doing some activities that produce a work sample, you can keep a portfolio. It can be just a portfolio of all subjects, or it can be subject specific: math, English, reading, writing. And then, like I said, I mentioned the work samples. Anything that you can do work sample wise, you can keep a product that your child has done. I would say too, when you're asking for records and things in the school year, ask for some work samples of your child's, maybe they're reading, they're writing, and they're doing a reading log, or if they're keeping um, a log of their reading fluency, their writing, spelling, math, so you can compare where they're at the end of the school year to what you're working on. So get some current work samples as you get those, as I'm going to talk about later, in organizing your child's educational record. So any work samples you can keep. Another way is a checklist. Remember when I talked about tasks? You may have to break a task down for your child. Say you're having them do the laundry, and you may have to break it down, and this is what we do with the washing machine, washer. This is how we do the dryer. With the checklist, you can check off what they're able to do in those steps. So that's kind of called task analysis, where you take a task and you break it down into achievable steps for a child. And you may have to work on a few steps at a time. So those are the first four data collection techniques. You have just observations, anecdotal records, creating a portfolio of their work, which can be just, it can be subject specific or it can just be any work, work samples, and then a checklist so you know what steps in a task the child can do. Next slides. Pictures. We all have these phones. We all have these tablets. Taking pictures, audio, video recordings. So taking pictures as they do the work. Audio and video recording. You can read your child, take a picture of your child doing a task, recording them when they're reading fluency. You can videotape them from start to finish of a task. And then another good way to use your phone is that notes app on your iPhone. Good for, like I said, making that diary. It also is a scanner. So if you're doing worksheets and you don't have a scanner at home and you want to save, start saving the physical document, but you want to have something to email to the team and you're trying to organize your records and you want to save it so you can email it, that notes app on iPhones is a scanner. So you can just put the worksheet there and you can scan it. You can do the typical data collection sheets. I have sample data collection sheets where you have their IEP goal and you're collecting data on that IEP goal, whether it's an academic goal or it's a behavioral goal, or you're doing frequency and duration. You can do basic data collection sheets. There also are data collection apps. Now, I'm not going to tell you some of these apps are still around. We know how much apps change. A lot of the data collection apps are geared toward teachers. But if you're trying to do the data collection sheets where you're working on their actual, taking data on their actual IEP goals, there are a lot of data collection apps where you can put IEP goals in and you can take that data electronically. A lot of them are geared toward educational professionals, but you just have to find the app that works best for you if you're that technology savvy. So now we have pictures, audio, video recordings, data collection sheets, and then you have data collection apps. Over the years, I've worked with parents. These have been the 8 that are easiest for them to do. Probably the most hardest one is probably the data collection sheets. It's probably
They're boring, huh?
yeah, the
Way
hardest.
more fun to take a video of your kid performing something that they've learned or
Yeah, so that's probably the one parents don't like the most, but we do have some parents who like to do the data collection sheets. So this is where you should start this summer. Before you do anything with your child, looking at their records, seeing where they are, you should be asking and getting this information. If you do not have these documents, here is the time to ask your child's case manager, their team, your special ed contact. You have to organize your child's educational records. I even did a presentation at the annual COPA conference 2 years ago that included the importance of organizing records. So you can start with the old way, the 3-ring binder with the dividers. Or if you want to go, technology based, you are not going to store as much stuff as I store as an advocate. I still am using the free storage on Google. Well, no, I think I pay for updated storage on Google Drive, but Dropbox, and there's one called box.com. I am still utilizing the free storage and I have so much stuff stored. So a lot of these have free storage, and what you would do is you'll go in and name a folder, the main folder, your child's name, and then underneath there you would have these individual folders, just like you have the dividers in a 3-ring binder. So things in your folder, you want to have a copy of your vision statement. You may ask, what is a vision statement? I'll come back to that. Most recent IEP or 504 plan, at least 2. Try to have at least two IEPs or 504 plans. your most current evaluation from the school district, and then you can have another tab for if you have any outside evaluations. You want a tab or a folder for copies of progress reports on IEP goals and objectives. And then you also want that general ed report card. Remember, the general ed report card tells you how your child's doing in the general education curriculum, and the IEP progress report tells you how they're doing on their IEP goals, which should be focusing on their deficits. Copies of any work samples. Remember, I told you when we were talking about data collection, get some work samples where your child's performing right now. So as you're working with them over the summer, you can see if they're improving or if there's skills areas you still need to work on. But get a copy of those work samples. If you're doing data collection sheets, you can have a tab for that. Medical records. Make sure you stay updated and have updated prescriptions and medical forms because they ask you these things in IEP meetings. Any notes you taken in IEP meetings. Parent contact log, I would say, and copy of important emails. We all expect technology to be around forever, but there are times you lose access to your email boxes. Okay, and they may have important emails. I also say make an email account just for communicating with the school. So many times I'll be on the phone with clients or potential new clients, and I'll say, "Oh, do you have a copy of this?" And they're trying to scroll through their personal email and can't find it. Make a separate email account. And then print out important emails because you could get hacked, you could get locked out of emails. The world could, some could happen and Google could go away. And Google, Gmail could go away. So I just say that. Any resources, informational guides, brochures, any cheat sheets you have, list of acronyms, that can be in a section in your folder. And then have a copy of your state's procedural safeguards, so you know your rights. And these can all be sections in a 3-ring binder with dividers. They can be folders underneath the main folder on electronic cloud storage. But if you are not organized before you start working with your child this summer on retaining their skills, get your paperwork organized. If you don't have some of these documents, like a current IEP, the evaluation, you should be getting progress reports every grading period. So you should be getting one here in the next, when school's out for your district, next 3 or 4 weeks, you should be getting that last progress report along with that last report card. And you'll want to ask the teacher for work samples. And then people might ask, what is a vision statement? A vision statement is what I have my clients write that talks about their child, and it's their parental input into their IEP. You have a right to include a written statement into your child's IEP. So the way I do this is we do this through a vision statement, and we have it inputted into the present levels. And I give a template to my clients that has questions that they can answer, but you want to include information that the team might not know about your child. Talk about their strengths, their interests, their preferences. Talk about things that you want to see in the next IEP. This may be what you hear parent concerns. I like to broaden it. It's just not parent concerns. We do put the parent concerns and maybe like things you want to see in the next IEP. That's at the very end of our vision statement. But the rest of the vision statement is all about new things for your child that they may not know. And I tell you this is very important, and I have seen it happen over and over in meetings, especially at the secondary level. A parent will put in something like, "Oh, my child likes to work with animals," or "My child likes court shows or police officer shows," or any interest like that. That drives the type of classes your child takes in career and technology. Okay, so the IEP team might not know your child has an interest in that area, and the district has a program in that career and technology area that your child can take classes in, but they don't know that unless someone tells them that. And I understand at age 13 in our state of Texas, 16 in the United States, you have to start talking about transition, and they're supposed to do age appropriate transition assessments. That kind of information should come out. But this is another way to make sure your child, remember, IDEA, the purpose of IEPs and IDEA is to prepare students for life after high school. Part of that is transition into post-secondary or some type of employment. And school districts have all of these career and technology programs for nursing, for health science, agriculture, graphic design, business. And, telling your child's interest in these vision statements helps the district and helps you in the IEP team to craft a better IEP for the child, and also a schedule of classes with their interests. So I say it's very important in a vision statement to tell the team things they might not know about your child. So I do have a template for that too. I have a template for everything, but I have a template for that. And the way I utilize that, it goes directly in the present levels. You do not let it be attached to the IEP. You're a stakeholder, just like any other member of the IEP team. They don't attach the PT's information or the speech therapist information as an attachment to the IEP. Their information goes strictly in the present levels. So that's where your parent input statement should go.
And
So, and
this
I,
is a great thing to think about too. I don't know if, we've got a lot of people here today, some new and some have seen many of our webinars, but we like to talk about developing a letter of intent, and that would be a great thing to put into this binder as well.
mhm,
And we always talk about, this information needs to be available to somebody who might need to find it if you're gone.
yes, yes,
So don't, it's great to have it in a Google Doc or a Dropbox, but you have to have instructions for people to be able to find that,
yes,
to be able to log into your computer and get
yes.
that if they need it.
So the old 3-ring binder, I mean, I know everything's technology based. That's the reason I started off 3-ring binder with dividers that you carry into the meetings, or you have when you're doing your virtual meetings. And you can do both. You can have the 3-ring binder, and you can have the virtual copy, just like I do for my clients. My clients all have a paper manila folder in my file cabinet, and they all have an electronic folder. So you can do both. So just remember to have fun, incorporate your learning, incorporate learning. Your task is not to teach new skills, but to maintain skills. There is my contact information.
Yeah, I wanted to keep this up while you finish up so that people can have a chance to write down your contact
Okay.
information. Of course, they're going to have it when they get the slides later on, but maybe they just want to write down your email or phone number or website right now while you finish up.
Okay. So there's my email, my website. I do run a very focused parent Facebook group that's all about IEPs and the laws. That's the name of the group, called Special Education IEP and 504 Plan Support Group. So if you have any questions, I have trying to been taking a list of things that I will attach in an email to Meredith to go out. Michelle, you do send the slides out, right?
Yes,
Okay, and
we send the slides and we send a link to the recording. So you're going to
I,
get all of that in whatever email that you registered for this webinar with. So I hope you didn't give us a fake email, but if you did,
yeah, if
you
not,
can
you won't
just
get the
send.
information.
Yeah, sometimes people do that because they're uncomfortable with sharing their info, and we totally get that. But you can email or call me directly if you need help getting the information, and we'll make sure that you get that.
So let me just recap. I'm going to send some things about to be sent out to everyone about a vision statement. I think the bingo website someone asked about. I have a great math skills website that I utilize, and I can't remember if anybody has anything else you want to put in the chat. Um, concerning so people asking about changes to the laws. Federal and state laws have not changed. Executive orders do not change laws. Any changes to law will have to go through the congressional progress process and be voted on. Executive orders do not change law. So IDEA, 504, ADA, all of those things are still in place. Now, what has changed is staffing. So OCR district offices have been closed. For instance, here in our area, if you're in our area of Texas, the Dallas office is closed. That serviced OCR complaints for the 4 states kind of in this area. So staffing issues have been are going to impact some things, but the federal laws have not changed. I know everyone, the executive order that was sent out about discipline last week, that changes nothing to do with MDR meetings under IDA or 504. It changes nothing, and the federal laws have changed. So
Yep.
that's about all I'm going to say on that.
What kind of activities? So we did mention some fun activities for retaining math and reading and things like that, but what about social and emotional skills?
Oh, that's a tough one. So
Yeah.
any social skill, you're gonna want your child to generalize it. We do not live in isolation. So that's why I said those social activities with your child and getting the names of individuals that you can do social activities with. Your student has familiar faces. And then with social emotional, you really need to key in on what is the student's deficit. So what kind of goals do they have in the IEP, or talk to their teacher. What kind of skills do they need to work on in that area? Social emotional is a little harder to work, I would say, to work on than just basic academics, but you really need to know what are their deficits so you can plan activities for that. Is it making eye contact? Is it, shaking hands? Is it responding appropriately to social situations? So that's one thing you can do, is you can do social stories or social scripts, or you can do scenarios, that same thing with like work-based learning. You can do scenarios like, if you're a child at work and you see someone steal something from work, what do you do? So those are type of scenarios. You can do social situation scenarios like that to work on. The biggest thing with social emotional is you want to be teaching your child appropriate responses to situations, and you want to be teaching them appropriate coping skills. So that
Yeah.
is probably the biggest thing that I see when I get caught in the MDRs in situations that have happened. The kids have responded inappropriately and they have not utilized an appropriate coping skill or coping strategy. So responding appropriately, because we all know in the world, you respond inappropriately, you go to those inappropriate places that nobody wants to go to.
Yeah.
So I would say that is the biggest thing, social emotional, is maybe doing a little role play and scripts on how to respond to situations,
And
especially
you
in
can
middle.
even practice. I mean, if you're going to be taking your kids out and about, practice, at the library. Let them ask for the book that they need. Let them at the museum ask where the restrooms are or something that they might need. Have them practice talking to strangers in a safe, controlled environment with you
Yeah.
watching. And practice those things. Hey, you did a great job, but I noticed you didn't really make eye contact. So let's work on that next time, or, whatever.
And I would say middle school and high school, very important. Practice the social activities, social scenarios kids might see and have in school. So you don't have things that require an MDR meeting,
Amen.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So this is our team at Consolidated Planning Group. I kind of flipped through you're going to get a link to our upcoming webinars. You're going to get a list of things to keep on your planning radar as it relates to special needs planning. I just want you to meet our team really quick. Allison and Jeff are the owners of the company. And then myself and my husband, Andy, are the other two advisors on the team. And I wanted to make sure I got this screen up a little bit so that anybody who would like to talk to Consolidated Planning Group also has that option. So I've put my email and my phone in the chat box. You can use those if you would like to reach out to me directly, and I can schedule a consultation for you. Or you can use the QR code or call the office for your free Zoom consultation. These usually just take like 30 to 45 minutes. Our goal is to answer your questions and then talk to you a little bit about what advice we have for you and what we can do for you going forward. That's all I wanted to put out there. Shemica, what do you mean MDR? What does that stand for?
Oh, I'm sorry. Manifestation determination meeting. That is when a student has had behaviors and they are looking to do an alternative placement, or your child has had a pattern of behaviors and they're trying to see if the behavior is a function or a result of their disability. Um, so that's another IEP type of meeting, as when a student is having some behavioral issues or a student has broken the student code of conduct. So that's why I say at high school, middle school level, especially, or any student, it's good to teach appropriate responses to situations, teach how to use coping skills, because I see a lot of manifestation determination meetings is because of a student's response to a situation and lack of the proper coping strategies. So summertime is a good time to practice certain scenarios on how do you respond appropriately to certain things happening to you or happening around you, so your child doesn't break the code of conduct or get in trouble or anything like that. That's that social emotional piece.
A few people have asked, what if we feel like our child needs ESY and the school refuses?
All right, so I'm
And
dealing with that.
that'll have to be it because we are at 1 o'clock, but I
Okay,
do
let
want to
if
give
we
you the
want.
time to answer this question.
So you need to make sure you need to ask the district for data on what data do they have to prove that they reason they don't qualify for ESY. I will also put in the email I sent. I have a great blog post on my website about ESY that lists the other criteria I look at, which I talked about the progress on goals. I talked about that breakthrough and that critical breakthrough and that skill. So there is a case that was used to establish some of this ESY criteria, a legal case. But there's more than just regression and recruitment. There's about 5 to 6 other criteria that you look at, but you need to ask the district what data they have to support their reasoning, and you need to bring your data for wanting ESY. But I'll put the link to that blog post, and it gives you a lot of information on other reasons your child may need ESY.
Perfect, perfect. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
You're welcome.
Shemica, I am so thankful to have had you with us today. This has
Thank
been
you.
just such a great webinar, and thank you for everybody who has taken the hour to be with us. Again, you will receive a ton of information in your email.
Yes.
Um, and we are here to help you going forward. So I know that I'm always willing to help. If I get an email with questions or you call me, I'm willing to help. I know Shemica is here
Yes.
to help you as well. So feel free to reach out to us. All of our social media links are down there. I hope you all have a fantastic week. And since we've been talking about it today, a fantastic summer once
Summer.
it is done with this school year. So
Yes.
thank you all very much for being here with us. I hope you have a great afternoon,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.